Hello and welcome back to Marine for TCG. My name is Joe. Drink of the day is 3-2 to England. And this weekend, we've got images of the full contents of the next 6 starter decks. I'm always interested in what the ratios are, so in this video we're going to be covering what has been reprinted, and more notably, what hasn't been reprinted. But first, on the 12th of July, there is going to be a restock on Sleeve Chief of their popular Darkness binder, and also the matching deck box. This binder is awesome. This is the only binder I've actually ever had compliments on at locals. I'm using this, the pink and the black work really well. And underrated part, the back is a smooth black, so it is perfect for taking pictures of your cards when you're selling on eBay. And people want to know about the conditions. Other binders I've got, like they have like textured backs, and it makes seeing the whiteness around the edges of the card a little bit more awkward. But yeah, if you want to pick that up, check out Sleeve Chief, 12th of July, 8 PM Central European time. Thank you to Sleeve Chief for sponsoring this video. First things first, all the deck images that I'm using in this video come from this X account, One Piece Merch News. If you do use X, I would recommend giving them a follow. They post about all sorts of different One Piece merch, as the name implies, I suppose. But yeah, it's a good channel, a good account to follow if you just want to keep up with what's releasing, because God knows I can't keep up these days. Every damn day, there's like a new card, a new shirt, a new this and that, and yeah, this account's good. Anyway, jumping straight into Red Luffy. The way that these reprint decks work is sort of, there's a few interesting things to note. Firstly, they always have the same sort of tag as their leader, with a handful of exceptions. So this deck being a Straw Hat Crew deck, every single card in this deck has the Straw Hat Crew tag. So any card that doesn't have the Straw Hat Crew tag that might have been good in this deck, say Conqueror's Haki for example, wouldn't be eligible for a reprint, so I'm not going to be talking about those in this video, because I didn't expect them to be reprinted. Also, they do not reprint SRs. They're happy to reprint rares. I mean, you can see a couple in this image. Nami is a rare, and Bad Manners, both rares. However, SRs, they just don't reprint them, not in these decks. The final thing to mention is the new cards. 2 of them you'll always get 4 copies, and the remaining 3, including the 2 SRs, you'll get 2 copies. This is how they make more money and get you to buy more starter decks. Although, with how fast these things are flying off the shelf now, they probably don't need to do this. They could probably start putting 4 in and still sell out everywhere. Regardless, starting off with Luffy, in terms of this deck, there's a lot of bad cards. However, there are some good reprints. The Nami Searcher is a brilliant reprint. This hasn't been reprinted since LDO1, and before that was like a long time ago. So Nami getting a reprint is good. She had about £1 worth of value, I believe, last time I looked her up, which is not too bad. And this art is also the art from the ST10, the 3 Captain style deck. We've not seen this print since, and it's much nicer than the Opiate 1 one, in my opinion. So pretty cool to see them reusing this art. Bad Manners is always a decent reprint. Then it's not expensive, but 0 costs are an important card to have. And this Chopper is okay. The card's kind of bad, but it is a promo. So if ever we have a deck that really needs this card, it being promo exclusive is always going to make the price go up more. So I'm never upset to see promos reprinted. I am upset to see this Luffy reprint, however. The third general rule they have is they don't include 2 characters of the same name. And this card is dog shit. This is one of the worst cards. If you look at its effect, I was going to say it's one of the worst cards ever, but it's not, because it says 1000 counter on it. There are a number of counterless cards that are worse than this, and they're far worse because you can't encounter with them. But yeah, this Luffy sucks. This Luffy straight up sucks. It's from ST something or other, the Shanks deck, which is why I have a personal vendetta against it, because it took the slot of what could have been a good card in my Goats deck. Instead, we got this shitty Luffy, which didn't even follow the type conventions. Anyway, overall, I think most of these cards are a bit mediocre. The Frankie and the Usopp are okay. You might include those in your list. But like the Robin, the Luffy, the Chopper, the Zoro, the Gum Gum Jet Gatling, all very, very mid. So I'd say this one is a bit of a mixed bag. But what did they not reprint, I hear you ask? Well, they didn't reprint these. These are the main 3, Straw Hat, Rare, or Lower Rarity, that I sort of expected them to print. The 2K Sanji and the 4-cost 2K Chopper. There's a lot of 4-cost choppers. But anyway, this chopper and Sanji are both very cheap. However, you might choose to play them in your deck. They're both very reasonable cards. However, the main one that I was quite surprised by is Mulgun. When this card's been good in the past, this has commanded like a decent bit of value, you know. This has been like £4 or £5, I think it was, when Rayleigh was really good. And this goes in and out of being a popular card in the meta. It's a very good effect. It's just sometimes the effect doesn't work out as being worth the play. But it's a strong card, and I really do think they should have used this opportunity to reprint this rather than the Jet Gatling or Jet Pistol, or whatever the one cost Jet card. I can't remember what it is. I think it's Jet Gatling. Anyway, yeah, these prices down here, by the way, they're the card market 7-day trendings. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame they didn't reprint Mulgun, but other than that, we got an army searcher that's pretty cool, and I don't think there's anything else that was really crying out for a reprint. Moving on to green, and again, I think most of these cards are pretty good. The one we've got a 2 of is the Zoro 2K. If you are going to play Zoro or Mihawk, you're probably going to want 4 of these going forwards, so you will be looking to buy 2 starter decks. And there's mostly good cards in here, including a few good reprints. Hiyori, Restand Event, and Toshigi, all nice reprints that are very, very staple to Zoro. None of these cards are very expensive, but they're cards that you are going to need for this deck. And who knows, if this deck does get more popular, they could become expensive, but they won't now because they've had a free reprint. NikoStrike as well is a starter deck exclusive card. It was exclusive to the Bonnie starter deck before this. So seeing that have a reprint is nice, even though I feel like you're probably not going to play this in Zoro, on balance. Kuina, Hiyori, and Kawamatsu are all pretty reasonable cards as well. Kawamatsu being playable off your Mihawk is pretty cool, and Kuina and Koshiro are just stable cards. The only sort of stinkers I'd say in this deck are the Perona and the Ryuma. Both of these cards are just not very good, so I'm not really sure why we needed more of them. But overall, I think they did an okay job. However, there were a couple of cards that I really did expect to be reprinted in this one. Primarily DMG. DMG is like £2.50, and it's not seeing a lot of play at the minute. It's a one-of in a couple of decks. GU Luffy sometimes plays this. Mihawk will play at least one of these. And some other green decks as well. But this is being played as like a one-off at most. So, at 2.30, Dentist O'Clock, it's already like got a bit of value. And if green becomes more popular with this new deck, like Mihawk or Zoro, then I could see this rising. And I think it's a bit of a whiff to not reprint this. It's Zoro's damn move. Like, come on, man. It's probably the most iconic move that Zoro's done, would you say? Let me know in the comments. But either way, very iconic and a bit disappointing they didn't reprint it. These other two less so. The Zoro is very cheap. You don't always see this in Zoro, but you often do. And the lore, I feel like they didn't put him in here because of the Mihawk. I think they think the Mihawk's going to replace lore. I'm not convinced without trying it. I still think lore has some upsides. Being a blocker later on in the game, I can't count how many games I've just sort of left a bunch of lores there later on and got value out of them being a blocker. And also picking up a character is not a downside, especially with that new one-cost Zoro 2K that wants to be played out to battle weenies. This is just not a downside. You have that, you can pick up searches, you can pick up other 2Ks that you've played out, maybe Shimotsuki Kozaburo. So I think lore could be better than Mihawk. We'll see. It has upsides and it also has downsides. Coming in rested kind of sucks. But being able to play anything is kind of nice. You can play like Bonnie blocker or Bonnie stunner. Either way, I think it's a bit of a shame they didn't reprint DMG, but I'm not too upset about these other two. Moving on to Kuzan, and Kuzan might have the highest quantity of dogshit cards in his deck. This Django is trash. It's a 6/8 vanilla. This full body is worse. It's a 4/6 vanilla. And this Jaguar D Soul is not great either. A 6/7 blocker. I know you can play these off a Garp, but realistically, I don't really want to. I want to play good cards off a Garp. And there's some good cards that they've chosen not to reprint, which is quite disappointing when you've got this quantity of vanilla characters. However, some of the other cards are good inclusions. Ice Time, Sengoku, and Kuzan are all rares that have had reprints, which is great. None of them too pricey right now, but they'll now never have the chance to be. Bluegrass is only a common, but you may well want it in your deck. And the same with these two. Ice Block Pheasant Peck you will definitely want, so it's nice to have even though it is just a common. Zephyr I'm not personally a fan of, but if you do like him, it's a 2k that you might include in your deck. The 2 of in this deck is the Smoker. The Smoker is a very, very strong 2k for Kuzan, so you will be wanting to pick 2 of these up anyway. If you're planning on playing Kuz, you'd need 4 cards regardless. What am I talking about? Overall, I think they did a decent job, but there are, like I say, a few cards that they sort of whiffed on. One main one, and we'll switch over, and here it is, Gravity Blade Raging Tiger. This is a staple blue card. This goes in all sorts of decks. Sanji, UP Sanji plays this, UP Luffy, UG Luffy, blue, yellow Nami. Any blue deck can certainly consider this, especially when decks like Rosnante, that play a lot of 6 costs, are roaming around and doing quite well at the minute. This is currently going for about £2, and that's with having a reprint in PRB 1, 2, I think. PRB something. So I think a reprint of this could have gone a long way, but here we are. And these are 2 cards that I would have loved to see instead of some of the shitty vanillas. Like, neither of these are expensive cards. You can look at the prices down here. But it would have just been nice to see these instead of vanillas. It would have made the deck better if you're playing in a sealed environment. And if these cards do end up going up to, you know, I could see Isho getting to £1 if Kuzan becomes popular. Sakazuki, maybe not so much. Maybe like 50p. But it's still money you wouldn't have had to spend if they just put them in the decks. But hey, it is what it is. Not the worst for Kuzan. But whiffing on Raging Tiger, you know, it's a bit of a whiff. The Katakuri deck is a weird one because I don't really think there was too much that they needed to reprint. A couple of cards I'm going to talk about that they've missed on. But honestly, like, nothing in this deck really needed a reprint. Pero's got one, I guess. He will be good in the deck. And Anana. And, like, maybe this Pudding 2k could be okay. But a lot of these cards are just mid. Like, Oven is fine for dealing with some weenie stuff, but only really if you go second. If you go first, you still wouldn't want to play Pero. And he's very vulnerable, just getting killed. These events are both very, very mid. The big 5k event is cool and flashy, but often doesn't end up working. And the removal event is just not very good. Nobody really ever played this. The vanilla 2k is fine, and one nice one is the promo smoothie. I don't know if you'll actually play this in the deck. My gut says no, but it is a promo, so getting a reprint of a promo, I'll always take it. This Flampe is just dog shit though. They should not have reprinted this. I don't get this one. I'd rather had like a vanilla than this card. This is like Luffy tier. But yeah, the other 2 of in the deck is Brule, who is your searcher. She's the best of the 3 commons. It only makes sense. So what do we miss on? Well, here's the main 2. Neither of them are expensive, but they are cards that it would have been nice to see in the deck. We're going to claim the One Piece does not have the Big Mom Pirates type, but it searches Big Mom Pirates. Look, she's right there. Look at her. She's right there. Where's my mouse? There it is. So every print of this would have been nice, and the same with the Pudding. This is a core card in the deck. I've not seen really many lists not playing this, so it's a bit surprising to not see it be reprinted, but it's 20p. It's not the end of the world. Moving on to Sabo, and yeah, I mean, everyone knows about this deck by now. This is underwhelming. I've still not played with this. I do want to try this soon, probably this week or next. But these weenies, man, they just don't excite me. I feel like this isn't the route you want to go with Sabo. I feel like the blocker route with the big secret Sabo, Dragon, and then like the big top ends like Stussy is better. But you never know, I could be wrong. There are 1 or 2 good reprints. The Mook Sabo promo has been available twice now at locals. But again, it's a promo. I'll always take a reprint. And some of these cards are good in the deck. Notably the Morley and the Inazuma, I think, are quite reasonable. But because they're basing it around this 4k engine, you've got kind of like shitty 2ks like this Bello Betty. And there's a Vankov that sort of protects against removal, but nobody's removing these 4k bodies. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. These cards suck. These cards straight up suck. And there's this koala sucks as well. The Waxing Fist is nice. Or Heron Wall Fist. This other event, not so much. The 2 of is Lindbergh, if you like. All of these 4Ks are pretty underwhelming. And there are a couple of cards that they probably could and should have printed. Mainly just these searchers. It would at least made the deck a bit more consistent. Like maybe they don't want to reprint the Bello Betty searcher or the stage because they're kind of old. They could have at least reprinted this koala searcher. It's not expensive, but it would have made the deck a bit more consistent in a sealed environment. And I don't know, I feel like just no thought went into this Sabo deck. I can't lie. Like, this feels like they didn't care. But maybe I'll be wrong and this is a lot more powerful than I'm expecting. And finally, Kid. Kid, they've done a good job on. I actually don't have anything that I think they should have reprinted, that they didn't. The biggest one was this lore, and that's why he's in the thumbnail. This lore was like a £7 card because of Rosnante. Rosnante really likes playing this because it can grab it back with the I Love You event, which grabs back a lore from your trash, so in that way it becomes like a 2k for one Don, which is very efficient. And this card only having a promo print and a reprint in PRB2, which was like just which was like just surprisingly hard to pull. I opened like 6 boxes of that set, and I think I got 4, which is mental. That's mental. So yeah, a reprint of this was absolutely needed, and thankfully they didn't miss this one. This Bonnie is not a very good card, in my opinion, but it is a promo, and again, I'll always take a reprint of a promo. They've also done good reprints of a couple of rares in the set, the deck, the Luffy Searcher and the Hawkins. Good reprints, I'll take it. You're going to play them in the deck. They're rares, they could have had a bit of value, but now they won't. Excellent. And some of these other cards are just good. Like, a Rouge actually saw play in this deck. Normally I'd rag on Vanillas. You saw me rag on them in the Kuzan part. But in this deck, this Rouge was actually good. Now, I don't think you'll play it in a constructed build. But if you are brand new to the game, this isn't like a horrible card to have in your deck. It's just kind of a bit mid. The X-Drake 2k is another nice one. And one sort of weird thing about this deck is there's so many 2ks, right? You've got Law, X-Drake, Veg, Cavendish, and a Pooh. You've got 18 2ks in this deck, which is way too many. Way too many. I think the worst of these is the Veg by quite some way. All these other cards have better utility than him, in my opinion. So yeah, if you are going to buy a couple of these and you're wondering what to cut to replace some of these kids and killers, or to make playsets of them, definitely Veg would be my first port of call. This Zoro is also a bit mid, so you're probably not going to include this one for long, but the Searcher event is nice. I don't know if you'll end up including this in a fully constructed build, but I'll never sort of harp on them for putting more consistency in these decks, especially if there is a sealed event for these, which I don't think I've said anything about. So I feel like there isn't, but they did for the last 2 times. Let me know if I've missed that in the comments. Either way, just a quick rundown of what's in these decks. Overall, I think they've done a good job, hit most of the reprints that they should have done. A few whiffs, mainly events, interestingly, and some lower rarity rares. If you are looking for advice on what else you could include in these decks as you go to try and build a constructed build, check out my video that I did a while ago. I'll have it linked in a card on your screen on cards that I'm looking to buy before these decks come out. The prices may well be a bit outdated, but it'll at least give you an idea on what cards I would be thinking about buying outside the ones that we've mentioned today that didn't get reprinted. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.